Hey, it is Kenny from Kenny's Audiophile Record Reviews. Thank you very much for viewing my channel. As always, if you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe. I sincerely appreciate that. In this video, I'm going to reveal who I think is the greatest jazz musician who ever lived. I know a lot of people like to break it down by category, like, you know, who was the best saxophone player, best tenor saxophone player, best trumpet player. But I'm going to give, like, overall, which I think is the greatest jazz musician who ever lived. You know, there's many factors that play into this, you know, their skill and talent set, their influence on the, you know, the jazz community as a whole. There are many factors that go into that, but, you know, like in basketball, you know, people just, they don't necessarily break it down by position. They give who was the greatest basketball player of all time, like Magic Johnson or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, by the way. But so I'm just going to give who I think is the greatest jazz musician who ever lived. And at the end of the video, after that, I'm going to give who I think is the best female jazz singer of all time and the best male jazz singer of all time near the end of the video. But before I get who is the best jazz musician of all time, I'm going to give some candidates for that crown. This is not meant to be like a comprehensive list of candidates, but just an overview of candidates. And you know, like I said, just an overview. There are going to be some glaring omissions. I'm sure you have some favorites out there in the, you know, those of you who love jazz. So please leave your comments in the comment section below who your favorites are. Who do you think is the greatest jazz musician of all time? Female jazz singer of all time, a male singer of all time. But I'm going to go through at least some candidates for that. And one is, and I'm going to try and go through these quickly as I can. The great Thelonious Monk, with this very unique style of playing. He really had this unique style that was actually stunningly beautiful. There's this documentary that was done about Thelonious Monk. It's called Straight No Chaser. If you have not seen Straight No Chaser, a documentary about Thelonious Monk, it was done during one of his concert tours. You should definitely check that out. I think Clint Eastwood was involved with that. Now, I'm including Coleman Hawkins because he's one of my favorites on this album, Today and Now. There's a song called Love Theme from Apache you should check out. And that is Coleman Hawkins. Got to include Art Blakey in the conversation. What a masterful drummer he was. Very influential on people of many different genres, many different drummers and many different genres. Now, I'm including Chet Baker because a lot of people in a VC like Chet Baker. If I'm being totally honest, if I were to make a top 10 list of my favorite jazz musicians, most talented, Chet Baker would not make the top 10. Now, granted, Chet Baker is a fabulous trumpet player and singer. He was a double threat. But just because he doesn't make my top 10 doesn't mean this brother's not great. And Chet Baker was great. Dave Brubeck, a great piano player, great jazz musician. You have to include Horace Silver. What a master he was. Now, I'm including Herbie Hancock because of his longevity and his career success. You know, winning an Oscar for the movie Round Midnight, winning, you know, a Grammy or 2 or 3. I don't know how many Grammys his brother has, but Herbie Hancock is included as well. He was very influential. I'm including Keith Jarrett because I think he's one of the best improvisational musicians regardless of genre, and I think he's the greatest jazz improviser, at least on the piano, in my opinion. A lot of people like other piano players. I'm going with Keith Jarrett in terms of improvisational skills regardless of the genre or instrument. I think he was the best. A lot of you VC love Bill Evans, so I have to include him. He had this beautiful tone, this beautiful playing, this beautiful style. Almost like very romantic style of playing. I think I was chilling in my living room with my wife and I want something playing in the background. I might play Bill Evans. The great Count Basie. and his fabulous groups and bands and orchestras. Count Basie has to be included in the conversation. This is the greatest jazz album of all time. Now, will he be the greatest jazz musician of all time? We'll see. And that's John Coltrane's A Love Supreme, the greatest jazz album ever made, in my opinion. Will he be the greatest jazz musician of all time? Check it out. And you can't have a list without Louis Armstrong. Great singing voice, great style in terms of a trumpet player. I'm sure he was very influential in terms of, you know, in terms of his longevity, who he affected during his career. That's what the greats do. Who they affect during their career and who they motivate and inspire. And Louis Armstrong has to be near the top of the list. Matter of fact, Oscar Peterson as a piano player was magnificent. The great Charlie Parker. This is a magnificent set. I think this is like a 10 CD comprehensive set of Charlie Parker. Bought this at a swap meet. Gotta listen to that soon. Art Tatum. What a master he was. The magnificent Dizzy Gillespie. It's a joy to listen to Dizzy Gillespie when he plays. Just a tremendous, tremendous player. The great Miles Davis. Had to include him. Will he be my #1 choice? We'll have to see about that. He had longevity on site like Frank Sinatra did in the vocal realm. Miles Davis in the jazz realm. This is a legendary Kind of Blue album, the mono version. You cannot have the greatest jazz musician or somebody who was very influential in jazz without mentioning the great Duke Ellington. If you want to hear a great Duke Ellington album, listen to the Duke Ellington Masterpieces that was issued by Analog Productions. Sounds stunning. In terms of free jazz, this brother's near the top of the list, if not the top of the list. Ornette Coleman. Change of the Century. He has another album, I think it was called The Shape of Jazz to Come, which is great. It just came to mind. I forgot to bring one of his albums out. That Charlie Mingus is a mention as well. Then the great Dexter Gordon is also a fabulous mention. Lee Morgan. Too bad his life had to end tragically, but he deserves a mention. And the great Sonny Rollins. I just purchased a Sonny Rollins set. It's a 3 LP set. I'm listening to this. So far, so good. It's a fabulous 3 LP set issued by the Tone Poets. Now, who is the greatest jazz musician of all time? I'm going to get to that now. And it's based on his longevity, his influence on the jazz community throughout his career, his playing style, how he was not afraid to change, and he did it in a way that he didn't care what people thought. That's what the greats do, and that's Miles Davis. Miles Davis, he did not care. I'm about to show you some records throughout his career real quick before I get to the greatest female vocalist, the greatest female jazz vocalist, greatest male jazz vocalist. But he was not afraid to do his own thing. I don't care if you're doing what you're doing in life. You got to follow your own passion, your own path, regardless of what. I don't care if you're doing YouTube videos. Do your thing and don't care what people think. You got to follow your heart, and that's what Miles Davis did. He was the groundbreaking Kind of Blue album. Oh my God, he always had all-stars playing with him too. And he, like I said, he Sketches of Spain, an example of him changing styles, changing a direction, and not caring what the jazz community thought. He wanted to follow the art on his own terms. Now, also he was very influential in terms of the musicians who played with him. Like on this album, Miles Davis on trumpet, Wayne Shorter tenor sax, Herbie Hancock piano, Ron Carter bass, Tony Williams drums. Those are legends in their own right, and they were highly influenced by Miles Davis. And we went into the jazz fusion realm. He got a lot of kickback from that, you know, especially with this album, the greatest jazz fusion album ever made. He got a lot of kickback from that, from the critics, but he didn't care what the critics thought. You can't care about what the critics think. You got to follow your heart and your own path and your own passion in life. And that's what Miles Davis did. And that led to an immense amount of greatness throughout his career, all the way, you know, through the end. I think this is might be one of the last albums Miles Davis did. But all the way to the end, he followed the art form of jazz on his own terms. And I love Miles Davis for that. I think that's a good recipe for following your passions in life. Whatever, like I said, whether you're doing YouTube videos, whether you're a musician, whatever you do. Miles Davis, in my mind, was the greatest jazz musician whom ever lived. He was extremely talented, like I said, very influential to other musicians. Like I mentioned, Tony Williams, Ron Carter, Wayne Shorter, Herbie Hancock, to name a few. And they went on to become legends in their own right. And they became influential, like, you know, Wayne Shorter with Weather Report, you know, Tony Williams, his Lifetime group, Herbie Hancock with Headhunters, Miles Davis, the greatest jazz musician who ever lived. What's yours? Please leave your comments in the comments section below. There's no right or wrong answer. Just leave your comments in the comments section below. I'm going to get to the greatest female jazz singer of all time, and I narrowed it to 3. The great Billie Holiday, and some consider Billie Holiday the greatest jazz singer of all time. And you're not going to get any argument from me on that one. She can scat like nobody else. Ella Fitzgerald, and the great Sarah Vaughan with a beautiful voice who could have sang any genre. She could have went into R&B, opera, jazz. She could sing any genre she wanted to. That's how talented she was. Now, who's the best amongst these 3? I would, in my opinion, the most talented singer amongst the 3, and it's debatable, I would go with Sarah Vaughan. I just love the beauty and texture and tone and sweetness and a delicate touch of Sarah Vaughan's voice. Sarah Vaughan, in my opinion, is the greatest female jazz singer who ever lived. But you can't go wrong by picking Billie Holiday. If somebody said, Billie, you're wrong, Billie Holiday is the greatest female jazz singer of all time, no argument for me. For those of you who say, is Ella Fitzgerald, no argument for me, but I think it's the greatest female jazz singer of all time is Sarah Vaughan. There's many other great female jazz singers of all time. I mean, female jazz singers, I should say. Sarah Vaughan, I think, is the best. And I thought that, gosh, ever since I've been in my 20s, that hadn't changed. Now, the greatest male jazz singer of all time, and it's very close. I go back and forth on this one. You might get me one year, I might switch. John Hendricks from Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, and Eddie Jefferson. That's who it comes down to me. And there's many others who can take that crown. A lot of people consider Frank Sinatra a jazz singer. I don't think Frank Sinatra is in these 2 brothers' class, in my opinion. And Frank Sinatra is tremendous. I'm not bagging on him. I think he's a tremendous singer. But the greatest jazz singer of all time, the one who interpreted jazz music via his vocals and displayed it amazingly throughout his performances, throughout his life, in my opinion, the greatest jazz singer of all time, male singer, jazz singer of all time, is Eddie Jefferson, the greatest male jazz singer of all time. So there you have it. Miles Davis, the greatest jazz musician of all time. Sarah Vaughan, the greatest female jazz singer of all time. And Eddie Jefferson, the greatest male singer of all time. Please leave yours in the comments section below. Please leave your comments in the comments section below. Please like and subscribe. That'll help my struggling small channel out. I really appreciate it. It's cool doing these videos. You know, it takes a lot of work in preparing for these videos, but it pays off. It's worth it, in my opinion. Oh, a lot of you bring this up in the comments. This John Coltrane, Johnny Hartman album. Now, I listened to this a long time, and I discovered I have this mobile fidelity 24 karat gold plated version of the album. So I'm gonna listen to this soon on my new Denafrips Pontus DAC in the near term. That's a project maybe sometime next week. I also have the standard version as well. So please leave your comments in the comment section below. Please like and subscribe. God bless, strong love, and please keep the peace worldwide.